Hi, Adya. You may have just answered my question, but I wanted to ask about being able to stay open to allow acceptance of what is in the world with the violence and the environment and all of these things, and not get shut down by the magnitude of it. And to, how to what degree do you take it in or not take it in?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, it depends what your capacity is. So let's start there, okay? I think it's just wise for anybody, it's part of being a human being to be aware of what's going on in the world, that, we shouldn't have to hide from the more difficult realities of life in order to feel good. If we have to do that, then we're kind of living in denial anyway. But having said that, I think we also have to be wise consumers, because so much of the way that the difficulties of the world is communicated to us, it's not just told to us. It's usually done through argumentation. Nowadays you always have like 3 people that are arguing about everything that's happening. You turn on TV and they don't give you the news, they give you what various people think about the news. And so there's all these ways in which we're not just seeing what actually happens in the world, but the way it's being packaged to us is in a way that's meant to elicit strong emotional reactions in us. That's the way that the news on internet, TV, most of the forms that we get on the news, what they're doing is very consciously and very intentionally giving it to you in order to elicit very strong feelings and reactions. So I think we have to be careful about that, about what we consume and how much we consume. And I
go
ahead.
With
Let
that.
you go.
Sorry to jump in.
No, go ahead and jump in.
Okay. But also in my work, I read a lot of scientific studies, and I need to be current on a lot of the stuff, and that can be pretty disturbing too. It's not very emotional, but the facts are so stark. It
can be. And I'm not saying that we take in this kind of information. I'm not suggesting that it's necessarily always going to feel great or you're going to go whoopee. Some of it can be hard to take in, hard to see. You know what I mean? But I think the part that we really need to be really clear about is to see that when we're taking in difficult information, is to really be clear, okay, am I taking this in? What's happening within me? Do you know what I mean? And where are my responses to this information coming from? Are they coming from a clear space? Or are they coming from some space in me that's in, because it's almost like the old structure of the brain, the oldest part of the brain. When it gets activated, it just sees something as distasteful, or it sees something as a threat, and its first reaction is usually something conflicted and strong. That's just the old brain. When we can take in things, like I said, some things are very difficult to see, admittedly, no matter what state of being you're in, they're not easy. But also be able to really be on the lookout for, am I just taking something in, or am I taking it in and having some sort of conflictory argument within myself about it? Do you know?
So that's kind of then, like you were talking about earlier, going into an argument with what is?
With what is, exactly. So this is as I kind of said earlier, this is a hard one to get, especially when we're talking with our relationship with the world. The hard thing to get is that I could actually take in the difficult parts of the world or information that it's that are startling or whatever, that I can actually take this information in without energetically, emotionally going no. We can actually take it in, But that doesn't mean we're just going to sit there and say to ourselves, well, okay, that's just the way it is, therefore it's fine with me. I don't think that's often a true response either. I think when we really take difficult things in, if we take them in directly instead of through our conditioning, they do often elicit a kind of compassion, a compassionate response. Like, oh, I really do care. Can I feel my caring before I get all wrapped up in my resistance to what I've just read? You see what I mean? If I'm upset by it, it means I care about it. It means there's some loving force within me that actually cares. And often what happens is we get hit with our reaction and we completely lose the sense, the feeling of our deep, deep caring and love and compassion. So if we get upset, underneath it, we're only upset because it's linking into our own sense of caring and compassion.
And that getting upset can become so chaotic that it can be really difficult to act at all.
That's right. That's right. As the old saying goes, we can disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. We can see something, maybe it's just we just take it in because we don't feel like we're called to respond, or we can take something in and still decide, okay, I could take this in and I can feel a deep caring, or I could sit here and just be upset about it. But me being upset about something that's happening in the world doesn't help anybody in the world. If I want to help what's happening in the world, I need to do something, right? So what I do is more important than how I feel. Being upset or enraged doesn't help anything. It doesn't stop the pollution. It doesn't stop violence. It has no impact on anything. In fact, it tends to contribute to all that.
Right. And it's another form of resistance.
Right. And again, it's important to not go in, to not think, okay, therefore I'm not supposed to feel upset, right? Because then you can start to resist your upset, right?
Well, right. Exactly. And that's kind of where it gets confusing, is because so if I'm not resisting what's there, and then I'm not resisting my reaction to it, it just...
So let's say it's
like
upsetting.
It's so many layers to try to stay open.
Yeah, it's layers. That's what it is.
Yeah, but that's, I guess, the basic thing is just to try to keep asking those questions, is what is the reaction? What's the story? Can I let go of just, it's almost like having to let go on different layers until getting to something that can just be still with it. And so what I'm hearing from you is that it's like it just is. Yeah.
And you can't let go, and you can't let go of what you're experiencing. You can't go through those layers as long as you're resisting what you're feeling. So you might have resistance. You might, hear something and you get angry about it. And it's important to just, okay, if you're angry, don't resist your anger because Adya said, that's not constructive. If you're angry, fine. Sit there and allow yourself to feel whatever you feel, but really look at it, and then you start to see, I wouldn't be angry if I didn't care. So what does my caring feel like? What's that feel like? So you get the full spectrum of your experience. Oh, I actually, and it feels, how does it feel to care? How does it feel to actually feel compassion about what I'm hearing? How does that feel? You see, then you're filling in the picture. You're not denying. I'm not suggesting anybody should deny even their reactivity, because that just becomes part of the part of what you're experiencing, part of what helps you to see deeper.
Right, but when you said that, when you started talking about feeling my caring, it was like even in my body, it just felt like this warm, open, softer place.
Right.
And so instead of fighting myself as well as what's outside, just to keep letting the process work through.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, just right. And like I said, And if you feel, not that you should, I'm saying, but if you feel called to take action, then you can almost imagine, I could act from my deep caring and compassion. That can inform my actions. I can dictate my actions. Or I can act from my anger, bitter resentment. What do you think is going to be a more constructive way of engaging with the world? Yeah. You see what I mean? I think it's pretty self-evident because we see lots of people that are extremely upset about all sorts of things that are happening in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their upset isn't actually making it better.
Yeah, it's just more layers of fighting.
That's right. But even those people, if they also acknowledged, like, oh, I'm only ragingly upset, really because I must really care about this. I must really have some deep kind of, love for something here. If they could connect so they have a full emotional response instead of just a partial emotional response, then they would be they would feel better, but they would also be so much more empowered to actually be constructive.
So I think the key for me, like the first step, is really just, it is.
That's right.
And not,
that is.
It shouldn't be, or I don't want it to be, or how could they, or any of the,
right.
Lines that you come up with.
That's right.
It just actually is.
The first thing any of us have to deal with is the isness of whatever is. Yeah. Whether we like it or don't like it or agree with it or not agree with it, we can still do all those things, but what is what is at this instant. And if I go into opposition with what is, doesn't change what is, doesn't help what is. It just means I'm in opposition to reality. And guess which of those two forces is going to win every time?
I know, and I mean, I've heard you say that many times before, and it's so simple. But
it's simple to say.
It's so easy to come up with all kinds of things to not do it.
Well, and that's part of this is, part of this isn't trying to be a perfect person. Part of this is just starting to see, there's my argument. Oh, now I can see it. And I want to see my argument because when I can see it in acknowledgement, it's no longer driving me. It's that's the trick of this, because the trick of perfection, not that you're doing it, but the trick of perfection so easily sneaks in, instead of just being, this is about being a fully authentic, real, honest human being, not about being perfect human being.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's all.
Thank you very much.
You're very